Hey guys, and welcome to today's First Impressions video, the video game series in which we look at a recently released game and I give you my first thoughts and impressions on it. Today we're looking at Dead Man's Diary, which is a first-person survival game with some combat aspects later on. So far I've enjoyed my time on this game, although it is a bit of a slow burner, so I'm not very far through it at all. It kind of leaves you at an impasse at the beginning of the game. As always, we'll look at the options first, the different settings that are available, and then we'll jump straight into the gameplay and I can show you what it's all about. So let's not waste any more time, let's jump straight into it. Alright, the options then. Now the first thing I will say is that this is very much based with a controller in mind, and to that end, the mouse and keyboard do work, and the mouse does work in the options. However, you don't have a cursor, so you can't actually see where you're pointing. It can make it a bit of a ball ache. If you're going to make the mouse work in the settings, and if you're going to make the keyboard work in the settings, please give the player something that they can actually use to see, because mouse and keyboard in settings is just so much easier and faster than using a controller, and you can't really do that if you can't see where your mouse is actually pointing. So once you've picked up your controller, you've got your game options here. You've got force feedback, tutorial, show player status, show subtitles, photo mode is enabled, and then you've got your language in text and audio. I like the fact that they've actually separated those. Force feedback or vibration, there isn't actually a gauge or a way that you can turn that down a little bit, and honestly, in the first introduction of the game, when you go through the cinematic, the vibration is a lot. Like, my hands were, they felt it. Right, it's like if you, the easiest way I could describe it is if you use a strimmer for a good hour or 2 hours, your hands feel it afterwards, and it's not the best. So maybe a way of turning that up and or down wouldn't be the worst idea in the world ever. Your graphics options. Now this is where it gets a little bit disappointing. You've got your resolution, screen mode, VSync on or off, and you've just got your resolution scale, brightness. Motion blur has so very many options. Why can you turn the motion blur up this many levels? On or off is fine, and honestly, off. Never have motion blur in a game. I don't understand who brought it in. I wish I could shoot them. I'm not a fan. View distance, you can go up to epic, anti-aliasing, post-processing, shadow quality. Annoyingly as well, whenever you scroll down, it tends to knock the option all the way back up to the beginning, which is again why a mouse and keyboard is better for the options. Material quality, shadow quality, texture quality, effects quality, foliage quality, and light distance, and that's pretty much all you get. Now the good thing about these options is that you can see where the maximum is. It's not like a scroll bar where you don't actually know and then you end up scrolling to the lowest set and have to come back, so that's a good thing. However, I just feel like the options menu is lacking some things. It could have some greater options, some much better accessibility options, maybe an FPS counter as opposed to just having VSync on or off in the game. It's also not been that greatly optimized. The game was lagging during certain cutscenes. It was almost skipping, and it does that a bit in the game as well when there is a short cinematic. On that though, the game does run reasonably well. Your audio settings. Now what I will say about this game is that the audio sets the tone beautifully. It puts you on edge because you're dropped into the forest at night. The music is not too much, and it doesn't always play, but when it does, it is needed. And it just sets the tone of the game really, really well. It does set the volumes at maximum by default. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing with a game like this, because you want that atmosphere. You want it to feel like it's surrounded. One thing I did notice is that the sound isn't very 3D. It doesn't really utilize headphones, especially modern headsets, that can allow you to really absorb that audio technology where you get certain things in some ears and certain things in the others. It felt a bit misbalanced. And then your controls. You obviously with a controller can't actually rebind anything, which is a shame, but you can change the sensitivity of the horizontal and vertical, invert it if you so desire, and have toggle run off if you so want. Oh, you have got keybinds. I do stand corrected. So you can rebind these. You can see keyboard and controller settings here as well, which is nice. But outside of that, not really much else to say for the options. Not bad, could be better, and optimization does need improving. Let's look at what the gameplay is like. Alright, so here we are in the game. I'm very, very early in. There's like a very loose tutorial as the game walks you through these areas. Again, the tone setting is really, really good. Like, everything looks very post-apocalyptic. The graphics aren't bad. The textures are, you know, they're pretty good all around, pretty solid. The water effects are fantastic. You are at night. I don't know if there is a day-night cycle. I haven't got that far into the game yet, but the tutorial kind of leaves you in this spot where you can either push on or you can do the sensible thing, which is make a camp. But you need a lot of items for the camp, and they are quite hard to find, which is what I mean by the pacing. The way that the tutorial kind of walks you through this, it would be nice if it walked you along a path that gave you a lot of these items on the way, as opposed to you having to actually go out and find them until the tutorial's completed, and then you have to go out and actually look for them. I just feel like it would help with the pacing a bit more. The voice acting in the game is not bad. Again, it's very on the nose. It's why I'm a bit confused as to why it's kind of left you to your own devices so early on, while still being in a tutorial that is very clearly kind of telling you what to do in its own way. The controller does lead to be a bit of a problem as well in the way that you switch items. You have to hold your right button or your right bumper and then switch between which one you want. There isn't just a quick press in order to do it. Quick pressing just removes it. And it's a bit finicky and could be better in the long run. As for the items you need, there are many certain things around, like you have to use a Geiger counter in order to pick up food. You need to find things like matches and straw and things like that. And you've basically got to just walk around and find stuff, basically, and try and survive. There's the pot that we need. Now, it does have lockpicking in the game, and the lockpicking is fairly simple and straightforward. You have a health bar, essentially, for your pick, and you have to move it around in order to kind of unlock as you go. The Geiger counter is pretty simple and straightforward. If the Geiger counter moves when you scan, it's contaminated, you can't use it. If it doesn't, you do have to wait until the end of the scan in order for it to count, and then you can pick up the food and you can cook it as you so see fit. There is a rather in-depth option menu, or rather like an inventory menu if you like. You've got your diary, which you take whenever you find something new. You've got your quests, what you need to do in order to move on to the game. You've got your status, so it can tell you whether you're hungry, whether you're tired, whether you're cold, etc. Whether you're contaminated and need to take pills. And it shows you everything you've got in your inventory as well. And then you've got your build menu, so there is crafting in the game, although we haven't got that far yet. And then books and notes. So there's plenty for you to find in the game, and it is set into chapters. Overall, if it wasn't for the pacing, I would actually quite like this game. There is also like a rather sinister undertone to the game where you feel like you're not really alone, you're being watched, and you're always on edge for something happening. And if you come across something that the story deems is a progression, then it will make you look around because you hear something from behind you. Again, it sets the tone very, very well. Overall, not a bad game, not a bad attempt. I feel a few little tweaks here or there, and you're on to a winner. It's not really something that I would play, but I can see a lot of people really getting into this. Now, what would make it better is if it had multiplayer. If you could do a co-op game and everybody could go around and find things and see what happens. It doesn't look like they have that in this, and I don't know if that's going to help or hinder it in the long run, but I could see it being very good as a multiplayer game. So there you are, guys. That is Dead Man's Diary. It came out today on Steam. Feel free to go and check it out and let me know in those comments down below what you think. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.